Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. Also a bit of a feedback video, go through some of the comments on recent videos, have a bit of a chat about what's been happening there in the community. Also give you an update on what is happening around the country at the moment regarding the current health crisis that we are all living. An important video today. There's a couple of milestones just around the corner. The first one is 40,000 subscribers, and the second one is that this is nearly day 250 of this current health crisis that we have in this country, when that state of alarm first began back in March, getting towards day 250. So 40,000 subscribers and 250 days of this. Two important milestones, as I just said. And to be honest, I never thought that either of those two figures would ever be possible. 40,000 subscribers, of course, when I started this channel a few years ago, as I said yesterday, I never thought I would get this far. I thought 1,000 was a milestone, I thought 5,000 was a milestone, 10, 15, 20, and of course it continues to grow. And day 250 of this, unfortunately, as we all know, nobody wants to be on day 250 of this current pandemic, but unfortunately it is what it is, as I always say. As you can see, I'm outside again today, decided to step out of the studio, get a little bit of fresh air, and come outside and listen to these birds chirping around me. It always makes my day. It's a bit chilly. As you can see, I've got this heavy duty jacket on in order to keep myself warm while I sit here for 30 minutes or so to record this video. Normally only ends up being about 8 minutes or 9 minutes of video time, but it takes me about 35 minutes to record everything. So what's going on around the country at the moment? Well, a couple of places have decided to extend their perimeter confinements. I think Cantabria, Castilla-La Mancha are two areas. I think Valencia has also said that they're going to do it as well, and Navarra of course announced the other day that they're going to extend those perimeter confinements for another couple of weeks. No surprises there really, as the health situation continues to be a little bit dodgy in those particular autonomous communities. I think Aragon also announced that they're going to keep their cities closed as well, so things still not looking good there. And remember that this is all being done to try to get that health situation under control before Christmas hits, because it's going to be very, very hard to stop people from traveling or seeing relatives at that time of the year, because as we know, particularly in this country, that Christmas is a very, very important time of the year and a very, very important celebration for the Spanish. A couple of places in Spain have started to talk about what Christmas is going to look like. I think Madrid has come out today and said what they're planning for Christmas, and Catalonia also has given an idea of what Christmas is going to look like in that part of the world. I think at the moment in Catalonia they're talking about a maximum of 10 people getting together for Christmas celebrations, and I think they've also said that all New Year's Eve celebrations are going to be prohibited outside the home. So people are going to be allowed to get together for New Year's Eve, but nobody's going to be allowed to go out and party afterwards. So that's going to be a big difference for a lot of people. Madrid too has given us an idea of what Christmas is going to look like here, and according to officials in Madrid, it's all going to depend on the incidence rate in the capital city and surrounding areas in the Madrid community. So there's going to be limitations and restrictions according to the incidence rates. So for example, if there's a high incidence rate in Madrid come Christmas time, then they're going to limit the amount of people that can get together according to that incidence rate. At the moment it's not too bad. We've been talking about the Madrid miracle in recent videos, and apparently some German media outlets have published today stories about this Madrid miracle, how the Madrid community has managed to get the incidence rate down from 800 to 300 in little over a month. So some parts of the German press praising the management of the coronavirus pandemic here in the Madrid community. And remember that Madrid has been able to do this without putting in place severe restrictions like some of the places around Spain. So for example, in Catalonia they had to shut down bars and restaurants in order to get the situation under control, but here in Madrid, business as usual for those sectors. There's no perimeter confinement of the Madrid community, and it's one of only 3 places on mainland Spain that doesn't have a perimeter confinement at the moment. Madrid, Extremadura and Galicia, the only places on mainland Spain without those confinements. Now we all know that there have been a few skeptics regarding the Madrid miracle, some people questioning the data coming out of the capital city and the Madrid community, and nobody really knows for sure what's going on. I suppose that the only thing that we can do is trust the data and trust the information that is being given out. Some other regions here in Spain question the data, and of course El País newspaper came out last week and questioned that data also. saying that it had something to do with the way that the testing in the Madrid community was being carried out, and perhaps the testing was not as reliable as it should be. Here in Madrid, they're using antigen testing, and of course some people skeptical about the results, especially when they're done on a massive scale. And that's also something that's been announced in recent times. The Madrid community wants everybody here to have an antigen test by Christmas, and they're trying to get these tests available in pharmacies, and everybody with a Madrid health card will be able to have one of these tests if that happens. But there's a few people against pharmacies being able to distribute these tests. I think the medical associations are coming out and saying that they don't want pharmacies to be able to do this because it's not reliable. So we'll see where this all ends up and whether we have to have one of these tests by the 25th of December. Now, there was a bit of feedback on yesterday's video about traveling around the country at the moment, whether you can do it, whether you can't do it. We've seen in recent times that there are various people in motorhomes traveling around the country. I don't know exactly how many people there are doing this. I mentioned last week a couple that's currently traveling around the country in a van, and I did a search on YouTube to see if there are any other people traveling around the country at the moment in a van and recording their travels and putting it on YouTube. And I found about 2 or 3 other people. I'm sure that there's more, but in a quick search I found another 2 couples that are currently traveling around the country by van. Now, I decided yesterday to look into this a little bit further because it didn't seem right that people here in Spain can't travel anywhere, yet people can come into the country and travel freely from place to place in a camper van. And the fact of the matter is that it's not legal to do. It seems to be fairly clear that with the state of alarm that we currently have and all of these perimeter confinements that you can't go in or out of autonomous communities, and even in some places in the country you can't even go in or out of certain municipalities, then people are legally not allowed to travel. And I think the law is that if you find yourself in one of these confined areas, so for example if you find yourself in Granada at the moment, or you find yourself in Malaga in a certain municipality, I think legally you have to stay put until that confinement is lifted. I can't see why you would be legally allowed to travel from place to place while these confinements are in place. The couple that I saw this morning were in the province of Valladolid, and theoretically I don't think they would be allowed to leave that particular province if there was a perimeter confinement in place. Another thing, of course, would be if you're traveling through one of these confined areas or on your way home or going to a place like Portugal or even to a place in Spain that doesn't have a perimeter confinement. But if you're in one of these places with a perimeter confinement, or if you're in a municipality with a perimeter confinement, I think the most logical thing is that you have to stay in that particular place, as I said, until the confinement is lifted, whenever that's going to be. But I don't think it's going to be in place forever. Are the police in Spain strict on this? I don't know whether they are or not. I'm going to have a conversation a little bit later with the civil guard here in Spain. He's based in the province of Huelva, which is in Andalusia, so I'll ask him and see what he says, and I'll try to get to the bottom of this matter for once and for all. Now, if you're living in Spain, you're most likely aware that another bank merger has been announced between 2 of Spain's big banks, BBVA, which is one of the biggest banks in the country, and Banco Sabadell, which is a medium-sized bank, let's say. As you can probably tell by the initials, BBVA is already a bank that has been formed by various mergers over the years. It started off as the Banco Bilbao, then it became Banco Bilbao Vizcaya, BBV, and then it merged with another bank called Argentaria, hence the name BBVA. Banco Sabadell, of course, originally a bank from Catalonia, the area of Sabadell, I imagine. And I think Banco Sabadell also has a presence in the UK. Not exactly % sure what the bank there is called, whether it's called Banco Sabadell or it maintains the UK name, but I did hear a few years ago that they expanded by going into the UK market. Now, I'm not sure whether this current merger between these 2 particular banks is going to make it the biggest bank in Spain. I think still the Caixa Bankia merger is going to form the biggest bank in the country, but I think this is now going to be bank number 2 in Spain. So the banking industry in this country continues to consolidate. It's incredible how many banks have disappeared over the years here in Spain. I think back before the 2008 financial crisis, there was something like 60 banks, and today I think there's only 12, but there's going to be less when these new mergers take place. And of course, the analysts have come out and said that there's going to be huge job losses as a result of this merger. I think I read somewhere that there's going to be 5,000 jobs lost, and there's also going to be a lot of branches closed as a result of this merger. And that's one thing that I've been noticing over the years, how many branches are disappearing. Spain used to be a country with a huge amount of bank branches. I think there was something like 45 thousand bank branches a few years ago, and now it's down to around 24,000. And obviously with these new mergers, there's going to be less in the future. So it seems to be getting tougher and tougher to find a bank branch, and maybe people will need to travel a little further away from home in order to find their local branch. And that hasn't always been the case. As I mentioned, there used to be lots and lots of branches around the place. I was always surprised just how many bank branches you would see in a city like Madrid. Sometimes you would even see the same bank 2 or 3 times in the same street. And I've even seen branches here in Spain with a sign in the window saying back in 5 minutes, as if it was a normal business. So obviously only 1 or 2 people in that branch, and if they go out for a coffee, they have to shut it. And if you are living in Spain, there is a fairly high chance that your bank has disappeared over the years. I know that was my case. I used to do my banking with a bank called Banesto, and of course that disappeared back in 2012, I think, and that's when a lot of the banks disappeared around the country, especially the savings banks. Savings banks around the country used to pop up like mushrooms. Even here in Madrid a few years ago, we had Caja Murcia, we had Caja de Extremadura, we had all of these regional savings banks operating in this part of Madrid. It never really made sense to me. I couldn't understand how Caja Murcia, as I just mentioned, was here in this particular part of the world. But of course, all of those cajas or savings banks have disappeared over the years, as they were all forced to turn into banks or disappear or merge with other savings banks and turn into a bank. And that is what we have seen. All of these small banks disappear. Now we are only left with these big banks and these super banks that we're going to have in the future with these new mergers. As I said, the BBVA Sabadell merger and also the Bankia Caixa merger. We're just going to be left here in this country with huge banks, and all of these small banks will disappear if they haven't done so already. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Debate the situation out. I'll see you on the next one. Hasta luego.